The Advent season, the 4 weeks leading up to when we celebrate Christmas, is actually a time of waiting. And what it does is it's echoes of the years of waiting, the 400 years of silence, in fact, between the last of the prophets and the time of Jesus' birth. So during that time, at Advent, during the 4 weeks leading up, we just focus on this idea of waiting for the joy and the peace and the life of Christ. So with that in mind, over the next 4 weeks, we at LifePoint are just going to be doing just that by looking at the story of the birth of Jesus Christ. Now, the birth of Jesus Christ was as follows. When his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph before they came together, she was found to be with child by the Holy Spirit. And Joseph, her husband, being a righteous man and not wanting to disgrace her, desired to put her away. But when he had considered this, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for that which has been conceived in her is of the Holy Spirit. And she will bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for it is he who will save his people from their sins. Now all this took place that what was spoken by the Lord through the prophets might be fulfilled, saying, Behold, the virgin shall be with child, and shall bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which translated means God with us. And Joseph arose from his sleep, and he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him, and he took her as his wife. And he kept her a virgin until she gave birth to a son, and he called his name Jesus. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star in the east, and have come to worship him. And when Herod the king heard it, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him, and gathered together all the chief priests and scribes of the people. And he began to inquire of them where the Christ was to be born. And they said to him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for it has been written by the prophet, And you, Bethlehem, land of Judea, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah, for out of you shall come forth a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Then Herod secretly called the Magi and ascertained from them the time that the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, and he said, Go and make careful search for the child, and when you have found him, report that to me, that I too may come and worship him. And having heard the king, they went their way, and lo, the star, which they had seen in the east, went on before them until it came and stood over where the child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And they came to the house and saw the child with Mary his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. And they opened their treasures, that they presented to him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And having been warned by God in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their own country by another way. And when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to destroy him. And so he arose, and he took the child and his mother by night, and departed for Egypt. And he was there until the death of Herod, that was spoken by the Lord through the prophet might be fulfilled, saying, Out of Egypt did I call my son. Then when Herod saw that he'd been tricked by the Magi, he became very enraged, and he went and he slew all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all its environs for 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had ascertained from the Magi. This story needs to be considered in the fact of what I just said, which is for 400 years there had been a time of silence. No prophecy had been uttered. And all the world and all the universe, in fact, was just quivering with anticipation of what God would do. And if this was a stage, like I said on Now, the curtain would have fell 400 years previous and then would have arose, and what you would have seen would have been a young girl named Mary. Shortly thereafter, though, after she conceived child, as was promised by God through the Holy Spirit, they moved to Bethlehem. And I can imagine with her child being under the age of 2 that she did as most young mothers do. She made friends with not only other young mothers in Bethlehem, but also the older women. I can imagine she watched their children as they went down to the stream to do their chores, to clean. I can imagine they got together and they gossiped and had fun about all that was going on as their children Jesus among them played at their feet. In the middle of the night, Joseph, a man of action as the Bible describes him, immediately upon receiving this dream that Herod was coming to kill his child, well, he took his child and Mary, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and they fled to Egypt. But that did not stop the disaster. Can you imagine what occurred that night in Bethlehem? As Herod gave orders that every child under the age of 2, male child, was to be slaughtered. Can you imagine as the soldiers kicked in the doors, pushed away screaming mothers, perhaps killing fathers and mothers trying to protect their child, dragging them out in the street where the carcasses of these small children would have been left in the dust. It's a horrible thing to consider. And so can you imagine how long it was perhaps before the word reached Mary in Egypt that she, safe with her child, she had memories of these children that she had found now the news had been destroyed. How her mind went back to the women that she laughed with, that she shared times with. And as she thought, and I know, cried and mourned over the loss of all of these innocents. Can you imagine her struggle to understand what good could possibly come from this? And so, I just want us this Christmas season, as we begin to move into the Advent, to put ourselves in Mary's and Joseph's shoes and ask ourselves, what good can God do with what He has promised?